You guys have been around for nearly 2 decades. You've never closed a store and 1.7 million average unit volume over your 20 locations. That is absolutely insane for salads.
We really keep values and family values at the core of everything that we do. Just showing up for your staff, showing up for your community, your guests.
What you eat right now is going to affect how you feel several hours later.
We want to make sure that we do the staples well. We always like to say at salad houses, you got a friend in me.
How much easier is that to remarket to them when they're a loyalty member, which obviously goes to kind of snowball and all this effect. Tim, super excited to have you today and talk about Salad House. This is such a cool brand. If you see my little green light back here, you know, I'm representing the Salad House. So you guys have been around for nearly 2 decades, 19 years, 8 years in business. You've never closed a store, and get this, 1.7 million average unit volume over your 20 locations. That is absolutely insane for salads. So tell me what you guys are doing. What do you attribute this? How are you guys finding the best franchisees?
Yeah, well, I mean, the way that we approach things, and I joined on 8 years ago. Maybe I have some part in that. No, but I digress. The team is really, really great. Look, we really keep values and family values at the core of everything that we do. Joey Chaffee, founder of our organization, really is someone that was inspired to create Salad House, not because he was sitting in a college room and had to do some sort of assignment for a professor and create a business plan. He did it really to create a solution for his family and for the community that he lived in. And so family is always at the root of everything that we do. And when we look at in franchising, we know that when we go into a partnership with someone and we bring someone into our organization, that we have to make sure there's some shared values there. And so, with our core values, we have a couple of things that we keep really, really important to us. We have 4 of them. So to rip through our core values, one of them is to keep chopping. In fact, a lot of us wear bands that say keep chopping, or if it's this way or it's that way, I'm not really sure.
That's
But
cool.
for us, that's not just a saying, that's an energy, that's an approach. It's a reminder to stay resilient and stay consistent in this business. In the restaurant industry, can be tough at times, but with the systems and with the support of a franchise, it certainly makes success more obtainable. So just showing up for your staff, showing up for your community, your guests. That's one thing that we look for when we partner with someone. We look for someone who we know is resilient. We know that they're consistent, and that they're willing to show up during, potentially some tough times. When you launch a restaurant, or you launch any business for that matter, it's always a grind. And so therefore, if we don't have someone that's willing to commit to and wants to compete in that way, then we know that potentially might not be, someone that we would value in our organization, because it just might work. And then from the next perspective, look, like food, we look at food as fuel, right? And so to continue to play off energy, we say keep chopping is an energy. We know that our food brings energy. And when you're in a healthy space, you have to make people feel good. And we know that we do. And the way that we can do that is by really serving communities. And when we talk about serving communities could be teams, they could be corporate teams, they could be Little League teams. And so one of the things that we have to do is we know that we're not just serving food in that moment, but we're fueling other moments. Because when you eat food, you want it to feel good, and you want it to inspire you to go out and either do well in your workplace, show up for your kids in a great way. And so therefore, when we serve a meal, we want people who are truly passionate about serving communities, and so that they understand that once they serve that meal, and it's digested by and it's taken in by that guest, that they're going to go off and they have goals that they want to accomplish, and we want to play a small part in helping them chase down their goals. And so that's the next thing, for us, is that we just don't want to see people saying, all right, we want to exchange this food for this fee and now we made money. That's
Yeah,
not what we want.
I love focusing on, we're not just fueling them now, because what you eat right now is going to affect how you feel several hours later. And we've all experienced that. You eat junk, you feel like junk. You eat
Yeah.
something good, and it does. I love that. You're like, I want to give fuel to energize people to do the things that they want to do. Because when you're eating donuts or cookies, right? You can't do that. Okay, so those are the first two core values, and you said there's
But
four.
there's a time and place for everything. But we know in our business, primarily a lunch business, and weekend business, we know that a lot of people are out there and they want to go crush a workout. They want to go maybe crush their opponent in a game, or they really just want to do really, really well in their workplace. And so we know that, sometimes when people leave or go to a corporate lunch and they eat 3 or 4 slices of pizza and they come back to their desk, they're potentially falling asleep and maybe they can't execute on all the goals that they want, and they kind of throw their day away. We don't want to be a part of that. There's a time and place for that. But for Salad House, that's why we have such good retention. We have people coming back to us. We have so many regulars that make us a part of their weekly schedule, which is really, really amazing. And to kind of go with moments, the next thing we like to say, and this is one of Joey's expressions, our founders, we want to make people smile through their stomachs. And so again, we want franchisees and we want people in our organization, whether they're on our corporate team or they're our franchisee, we want people to serve food again that they feel like will make them happy and make them excited. We have a saying is like, healthy food or healthy eating doesn't have to always be so serious. And I think a lot of times when we look into healthy food space, the first question is, what are your micros? What are your macros? And in a way, like, our goal is really just to feel healthier choices. And then you feel good about making those healthier choices. I read this book once called The Motivation Myth, and it's like a lot of people sit around waiting for this one thing to inspire them and then to make this big drastic change. But I think, the research shows that we know that life doesn't really happen that way all the time. It's sometimes just a series of good decisions that seem to snowball in a positive way for you. And then before you know it, you've made some really good, healthy changes and routines. And so in that way, we also say with a smile is the opposite of kind of being serious, right? And so healthy food doesn't always have to be so serious. And it isn't at Salad House.
I love that. So keep chopping, food that fuels.
Definitely.
Um, well, I know we
Smile
just
through your stomach.
smile through your stomach. Okay, and then what are we at for the last one?
The last one is we want to make sure that we do the staples well. And what we mean by that is, sometimes we can get caught up chasing maybe trends, or we can get caught up in some things that are not as important. But we know that in this business, in hospitality, if you do the staples well, then you have a really good chance at success. And the reason why that's sort of the last one, because it's a culmination of all the others. If we just make people feel good about the food that they eat, and we do it obviously in an authentic way, then we know that we have a really great, chance at being successful in the market and against our competitors.
And 19 years in, you guys, you guys have definitely proven it. And I love right at the beginning, you're going straight to core values. And I've had two conversations already today, on like the importance of core values. And when you're making a decision, if you could base them off of your core values rather than, usually it's just like, what do we think is going to make us more money? Right. But is that really what we're after? Or are we after, alignment? So I love right at the beginning, you're going straight to the core values. Like, that's why we look for franchisees that meet this. And then you could fast forward, you guys have been doing it for 8 years, and your bottom franchisee made $1 million according to your FDD. And it's like, that's really cool. So Tim, how did you get involved? What were you doing before, and how does that relate to your position right now? What do you mainly spend your time on at Salad House?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So I joined on, as we said, 8 years ago, and I was a teacher. I taught fifth grade, taught language arts, math. I was that teacher, if you remember back to your elementary school, that you were stuck in the classroom with the entire day. But I truly had a blast teaching. I have a lot of respect for the profession. And while I was teaching, I got super involved in developing a baseball program. We scaled that baseball program from one team to hundreds of players, and we traveled up and down the East Coast, and found and that's where I kind of found my passion for business and for branding and for positioning. In growing a business, especially in sports like that, where you're doing showcase and travel and those things, you're constantly not only recruiting, but you're also recruiting your own players to stay with you for the next season. And so that's where I really started to hone my interdisciplinary, my communication skills and my ability to multitask. And we're really proud of what we were able to do with that program. And it's funny where things, certain places you go introduce you to other people at different times, as long as you keep your eyes wide open. And Jerry, the chairman of Salad House, who I approached just for some experience and just for a conversation, a beer, so to speak. And because I had started to think about what my career could be, or what a pathway could be for me to further explore my passion for business and branding and storytelling, and all the things that come along with that. And so it just so happened that he was also thinking about making a change. And his story was, he was a partner in a hedge fund, and he was talking to Joey about Salad House. And so when he offered me the opportunity to jump on board and start to build Salad House, I was chopping at the bit, chopping, and I dove right in. And Ben and I actually shared with you this in another conversation. I said to Jerry, I was like, "Hey man, like, I'm just a fifth grade teacher and a baseball coach. What makes you think I could do this?" And so when we think about teachers, teachers are incredibly resourceful, and there is a lot of education practice and programming in franchising. And so I was able to bring that to the team early as well. We make sure that anything that we do when we're trying to educate and onboard franchisees, obviously continuing education, I always make sure that I use my expertise to help us communicate, audit, assess everything that we're doing. So that was really, really exciting. Around that time, we implemented our first POS system, and I spent a lot of time looking at the data, looking at the way the menu performed, and I took a real interest in that and kind of led the charge. And so at one point, when Jerry and I joined Jared and Joey, we actually took data for 6 months, did a deep dive into the menu, and eliminated 40% of it. And as you can imagine, it's just a testament to Joey as a founder. There's not a lot of founders that would allow two outsiders to come in and
Yeah.
audit his company like that. But Joey's, certainly someone who's not only open to change, but also is someone who leans into people's strengths and lets them roll, and so eliminating 40% of the menu was a pretty risky proposition, but we did it for really intentional reasons. Some of it were because of cost of goods. Some of them were just not selling properly. Some of them was for speed. If we knew we were going to build a QSR model, we knew that we had to get ticket times down. And so we made some really tough decisions. And Joey was supportive of all of them, and we really optimized in that way. So that was like really one of the first big projects that I
Yeah.
tackled.
Yeah. I think there's a big benefit there because I went through something similar when I owned Dirty Dough. Wasn't my recipe, and I didn't care if I even liked the cookie, and I think that gave me a big advantage because I'm not the one that's going to buy the cookies to keep the company in business.
Right.
So, like, I like to like the cookie, but my target demographic was, 25 to 40-year-old women, and they're the ones that's gonna rate the cookie. So when you can take the emotion out of the business, out of the product, and just look at the metrics, it allows you to go further faster, I think, because otherwise you're just stuck on an emotional tie and not like, no, this works. And for sure, Joey's like that. He's just like, business hat on. I get this. I love this product, but I get that it has to go for us to scale, and it's working.
And at the
So
time, Bennett, I was really focusing, studying Seth Godin, who is, a lot of people say, is the godfather of marketing, really thoughtful, a real great marketing, a thinker.
mhm.
And he has an expression that we truly do live by here at Salad House. And his, paraphrasing is essentially, don't always try to find more customers for your product, find more products for your customers. And his thought there is, as you continue to develop more offerings for your current customers, current guests, they'll come back more often and they'll be more apt to tell others about your product. So in that way, it's the same thing, Bennett. We looked at, what do people love here at Salad House, and how can we offer them more of that? And the best example of that is, we didn't have a chicken cutlet sandwich. I know it sounds interesting as a healthy salad brand, but we do sell a lot of sandwiches and wraps. Um, But we created a sandwich called the Sweet Heat, which is right around the time when Mike's Hot Honey was getting really, really popular. And Bennett, this thing shot right to the top. It was like top 4 right off the bat. It was a banger for us. And we all were sitting around the table, and, my family, I have, some Irish blood. They don't like spicy food, but so, I brought some food over and they're like, "I don't like that too spicy. I don't like that too spicy." And I was just thinking like, all right, well, it's clearly everyone wants this style of sandwich, but everyone may not want something that's spicy. And so we created a sandwich called the Crispy Mother Clucker, and that sandwich is a barbecue-based one, and that one actually shot right to the top. And it's usually depending on location, it's a top 3 seller for us. We call them crowd pleasers.
And you had room to add that back to the menu because you'd already cut it and you guys are looking at the menu very objectively, which I love. Um, Now you also oversee marketing, right? You also oversee there's so much marketing that goes into producing, 20 stores that are doing 30 plus million a year. Um, can you walk us through on the marketing? If I am doing my grand opening, maybe we start from there. We have a 1% marketing fee. Most brands are charging 2. Salad House only does 1. Can you talk to me about, I guess, why you guys made that decision to only do 1% and what that 1% is going towards?
Well, we invest a lot on the brand side, and so, when we collect the 1% on the brand side, we're activating and initiating a lot of things for you, for franchisees. And so with that, we're controlling, one thing that we do is, we obviously have social media and we value it and we create tons of content. But our focus with you as being a community-based business with that is to really dive into Facebook groups. And so, we've seen so much success with our ad program that we can make lots of impact with just $5 to $10 a day in um, ad spend because our cost per click is just so low. And so that would be the first step, is just making sure that not only that we're running that when the store opens, but we want to get that open prior. We want to get you launched on those ads prior to open so we can create this waiting room experience, meaning we'll put together really compelling content for you. We will push those ads, make sure that they're running comfortably, maybe 60 days target before the open, and let's collect as many email addresses as possible. Give them a really nice offer. One thing that's super great about Salad House and will always be true is that the food is really good here. And when the food is good, the marketing is a lot easier.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we know that if we can just get you a meal, we know that we can convert on that customer or on that guest. And so we want to make sure that we might be a little aggressive early on getting some offers out there, getting some free platters and some caterings out there. But we know that once we get people to taste the food, they're going to come back. And so I guess that doesn't, to circle back to your original question, we want to make sure that we're running really compelling ads. As we move into the market, we give you a really nice opening strategy on Facebook. On the Instagram side, we will make sure that our group um, activates and engages with local community members. Some will call them
Mhm.
influencers, we'll call them ambassadors, people to bring through your pre-opening process. We always like to say at Salad House, there's that song from like Toy Story, you got a friend in me. Not only the franchise, the franchisor is a friend in you, but like the Salad House is a friend, and we're just trying to help you along and make you feel good about your day, accomplish your goals. And so we encourage our franchisees to have really good conversation even before opening with, with community members to get that buy-in so that when they open, they feel like, well, that's my friend. That's my friend. They're opening. So what does that look like? Simple advice like if you're going into a market, get your haircut there. Do your dry cleaning there. Wear your Salad House shirt everywhere. And these are all things that I know you're maybe asking me, how do we spend the money? But these things are free, because you need to get them done anyway. And to your
And
point,
it's the
Bennett,
fun
like,
part of the business too, I think. Like, that's the rewarding part. It seems scary, but every time you have a conversation, even with the cashier checking out of Walmart, right? Like, you feel better after those conversations, and getting into business, especially with food, it's so easy to penetrate the community and have Salad House sponsor my kids' soccer games and put the logo on the back and bring salads and bring food because food is so community driven. With marketing, because I've been through so many freaking marketing companies, everybody's gonna promise you, the sun and the stars, and we're gonna do this, and there's gonna be a wrap-up period, but man, afterwards it's gonna be so much money. And you're like, okay, but really, what are the results? So every single time somebody comes into the store, they're paying $25, $26. And if you can get them to become a loyalty, that is gonna 10x. It's gonna be $250 on average is what that lifetime value of that customer is. Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely. I mean, it's, we're shooting towards a 10x. We're hovering in that 8x right now. So we know that there's, for us, there's a massive initiative to make sure that we're getting more people on our, getting off third party. Um, we have third party strategy for sure, but we want to get them into our loyalty program because when we do, we know that we perform really, really well. And that's a testament to, the marketing team and making sure that we're putting compelling offers in front of them and that we have a program that truly rewards them for their loyalty. And so we have tons of initiatives, things that we've been testing in the back end. We do a lot of A/B testing to see truly what our guests want. And we really try to leverage, again, a lot of the data. And so our goal at Salad House, because we have food that you can habitually eat, is to make sure that not only we have strong ticket averages, but we get you back to, we get you to come back as much as possible. So we'll run keep it chopping challenges, for example, to try and get people to get to that third or fourth or fifth order within a month. But one thing's for sure, though, when we activate someone and we get them in, we move them through the process really, really quickly. So just to throw out some numbers for anyone who's listening
Yeah,
out there,
please.
we really, within Thanks, our activation rate is super, super strong. That's customers that make a third purchase within 120 days. We're beating the industry benchmark there. The industry benchmark sitting at 23, 24%. And we're in some quarters seeing as high as 28% activation rate. So we're getting that third purchase within 120 days, at a really, really great clip. Bennett, one of the other things we're really proud about at Salad House is our retention rate. We're retaining customers. They make their first purchase, come back to us in 180 days. We're almost at 90%. So you're talking about 9 out of 10 people coming back to Salad House to place an order again because they like their experience, they like their food, they like the way they felt, and that's something again, that from a marketing perspective, there's tons of levers that you can pull, but we know our product backs up the marketing, and that's super, super important to us. We don't want to be pushing something that we don't believe in. We eat it. We eat it ourselves almost
Yep.
every single day.
I am a huge numbers guy, so thank you for sharing that. Are there any other stats or figures that might be helpful for prospective franchisees to know about with Salad House?
Yeah, I mean, within, I would say a few things. And one thing is, without getting, too into the weeds, into the numbers, we're able to execute within our loyalty program at a pretty high rate, above industry benchmark, almost across, no, I shouldn't say almost across the board in every metric that we care about. But we do that by having a low effective discount rate. So we're significantly below benchmark there. So we have some conversations about, just what is the right cadence for discounting, and obviously how does that impact P&L? We think about that deeply, and we want to make sure that we're not, saying, look, we do so great at retention rate, we do so great at revenue capture, we do so great at activation, but it's because we're discounting more than
Yeah.
everybody else, right? That's
Yeah.
not the case with Salad House. It's actually quite the opposite.
And you guys' loyalty member is very strong. I've seen the industry benchmark. It's about 15% of your customers coming through are going to be loyalty members. Salad House, you guys are 50%. People who are walking into your store, 50% of them are on. They are a loyalty member. Which how much easier is that to remarket to them when they're a loyalty member? Which obviously goes to kind of snowball and all this effect. So I love it.
We see that
Jumping in.
number sometimes, and we ask them to double check it, make sure it's right because it's pretty significant. But again, it just goes to show you with Salad House, once you join loyalty, or once you get in the rewards program, you're a part of the team, and we're all moving in one direction.
That's awesome, Tim. So let's shift into the grand opening marketing. I'm budgeting, let's call it that average salad house is opening up all in for around 550,000, which includes $10,000 for the grand opening marketing. And from what I've seen, there is no guesswork involved for the franchisee. I have to spend my $10,000, but I know exactly which options I'm going to spend it on. I don't have to create graphics. I don't have to find anybody in marketing to help me. The playbook's there. And then once I open, rather than charging a 2% marketing fee or 3% like most companies do, you guys are only charging 1%. So I'm kind of doing the math, in my head, average of 1.7 million, just for easy math. Let's say your store does 100,000 a year. Well, what's 1% of that? That's $1,000. So you could be charging them an extra $1,000. Instead, you guys went and found a really good ad manager that only charges $300 flat fee per month. I can pay this ad manager $300 instead of paying you an extra 1,000 or 1,500 bucks. And then I'm going to take the difference and then put that into ads. And you guys recommend $10 a day in meta ads. So I'm only spending $300 a month on ads and $300 a month to manage it. That's a very low cost of marketing. And then obviously, my advice to everybody would be triple your marketing, right? Go up to 900, go up to 1,000, go up to 1,500 if you're getting those returns. And all of this includes reports, right? Exactly where my money's going, how it's being spent. Did I get all of that right?
100%. We're really happy with our partner there. We've created some really compelling ads that are performing really, really well. And when we see cost per click go down even, really super competitively, we'll also recommend let's throttle. Let's put a little bit more fuel in there and squeeze out as much as we can. And we know if we can get that running early enough and get you set up and committed to it, when you open your location, you'll already have a line, and it could be a virtual line. It's just a list of emails and people to market to that have already raised their hand and said, listen, I'm interested. Salad House is coming to my town. Here's my email. I'd love a free salad on your soft opening. And I want to come in and then you get the benefit of some people who are really interested, early adopters, so to speak, to pressure test you and get some, we can get some valuable feedback. We can work with our ops team, and our ops team is providing additional training in that way. So, we know if we put the work in early, as we said, if we link this to how we perform in our loyalty and how we do perform on third-party delivery as a solution for people, we know if we get people early and we adopt them early, we're super confident that with our systems, with our brand, and with our menu, that we can keep them here and keep them stuck on Salad House.
Well, tell me about third-party delivery. I've seen, again, we could check this on the FDD, but you guys are doing 40% third-party delivery, which is absolutely amazing. Less customers in your store, less cleaning, less hassle, all of that. What are you guys doing to achieve that, I guess? And what do franchisees need to, be doing as they come in to say, okay, cool, I'm also going to be at that 40% benchmark?
Well, our third party partners love us. We perform so well. And really, Bennett, what I think it comes down to is, yes, we have strategy and we have a program to run to ensure that we launch well on third party delivery from awareness perspective and from a conversion perspective. But honestly, I really do think when it comes down to it, it's the menu. It's in the end, any business that you create, any restaurant that you create, you're a solution for someone or something in the moment. And a lot of times when people are going on third party, you have some people that maybe are going on there super late night, but you also have people going in there looking for something to fuel their time-starved day, because they're getting that delivery. They don't have the time to go downtown and go walk around and go drive and looking for food. And so I got to be quite honest with you. I think it's just that we do so well and execute on our menu so well that we are, an attractive option for such a wide array of people that, are on third party delivery.
For anybody listening to this, don't take our word for it, right? Just go to Google Maps, go over to New Jersey, type in Salad House and look at the reviews. Then go do the same thing with any other salad competitor and tell me whose product looks better objectively speaking, right? And I love that.
On that point about, really having people who enjoy Salad House and, from a marketing perspective, it makes the marketing team's job a lot easier that when you get them in the store or you get a bowl delivered to them, that it is delicious. And so for us, we're so proud to say, we have locations on average, a Salad House location is have about 1,000 people that order from Salad House more than 2 times per month. So when you talk about regulars or when you reflect on your own experience, like very rarely is there a restaurant that you order from several times a month. It's usually you have a rotation, you're mixing things in. And so for us to know that we have that many regulars at each location truly is a testament to Joey's vision for the menu, and truly saying we're creating a solution We're creating a solution to ensure that people we can make healthy eating more accessible, more wholesome. Um, and going back to that word fuel, we want to make people feel good about the food that they're eating, and you know, um, these are their hard-earned dollars.
Yeah. And I love that. And you guys are, because you do that so well, you're providing a great franchise opportunity. Um, can you tell me who makes the better franchisees versus the not so better? I don't even want to say bad because your lowest location on your FDD was at $1 million revenue. It was like 990 something thousand. So it's like, I can't use the word bad, but speak to, prospective franchisee. What are the expectations that you've seen, the mistakes made by current franchisees to, potentially correct them for new people coming in?
Really, I think when it comes down to any franchise is, you want franchisees who commit to the plan, and then franchisees who don't take shortcuts. In some cases where there might be potentially a lack of trust in investing in a particular, marketing program. So for example, if we go back to grand opening and what you're spending on, yes, we have a great ads program, but we still believe in print media and a mailer program. And our food looks really good. We present really well on in a mailer program, and we convert tremendously well on
And do
that.
you have mailer programs designed for me that I just say, here's the money, and then here's the company, and then it's all printed and all that? I don't have to go design anything, right?
100%.
Okay.
Everything's set up for you. We have a partner there. You don't have to go and design anything. We have offers. We have some optionality within the offers, but we know which ones convert based on our, thousands and really tens of thousands of offers that we've sent out there. So, it's another thing when it comes to grand opening is we have a great a great paid media program. We have a great mailer program, and we have a really great way of helping the franchisee run their opening, run their friends and family night, making sure that we really do bring a lot of good energy to the community. And, the good thing about us too is that, we do that lockstep with you. Every single opening for Salad House is super, super important. And, when we open a location, we all descend on it in different ways because we're all interested and we're all, it's still a celebration for us. We like to say we have corporate experience, right? When you talk about systems, when you talk about, tech, we're so proud of the tech stack that we have. But in the end, it's that mom and pop spirit, not only from the franchisee, but also from us. It's that hustle and grind that we're going to be there right with you in lockstep, making sure that you are well received and your guests are happy in your new community.
What you guys have built at Salad House is absolutely amazing. It provides such a good opportunity for people like myself that's never been in the salad food world, right? Or no, somebody who's never been in the food world to be able to open up a location, have all the marketing, the tech, everything kind of done for you. With that being said, lifestyle changes a lot when you jump into a new business, right? You're usually working more, but eventually wanting to pull back and buying a business to have more time freedom and, financial freedom. So
Right.
can you talk to me about the lifestyle changes that your franchisees experience when they come into the system and buy a franchise?
Absolutely. And I mean, going back to our core value of keep chopping, that we know that nothing in life is guaranteed. Everything is earned. And so when you do go in and, open a salad house location, there are a number of factors that will lead to whether you're successful or not. And I'll give you a great example, the story of Jack Sonmez, who operates 3 locations. He started with his first one up in Ridgewood, New Jersey, and one of the first things that we saw from Jack, that before even the sale started to go, and he runs a $2 million store there. It's one of our top stores. One of the first things before even the sales hit that we knew that he was going to be successful is in those early days, he took his wife and his 2 children and he walked around, Ridgewood's a downtown area, and he spent several days, many hours walking into the dry cleaning business, the nail salon, the beauty salon, and he introduced himself. He not only introduced himself, he introduced his wife, he introduced his kids, and he really level set to show everyone, look, I'm here with Salad House. I love this product. I can't wait to bring it to Ridgewood, or it's here, and and come dine here. But also, I'm also setting an example for my kids and my family, and I feel really good about it. Jack was someone who was a very successful entrepreneur, and he was in the Amazon business. He was selling textiles and things like that. So there wasn't really a personal connection for him. And so now you saw him come to life, and he felt so great about being able to now be there to serve his guests the product that they just bought for him. And, he had so much energy. And he is someone that when we look to it, we actually, when we did our summit last year, we gave him the Chopperator of the Year. We call it the Chopperator of the Year. And a lot of that, when we think about the Chopperator of the Year, I think sometimes get lost. And it's just like, yeah, they know all the measurements, they all know all the temperatures and things like that. Yes, he and his staff definitely adhere to the standards, but it's their willingness to go above and beyond, and invest. Because if you're not in the store, that does mean you have to pay someone else to have a position. So I would say on the
Absolutely.
flip side, where we have seen some locations that maybe are struggle to get off, is that the person who wants to be the face of the store is really stuck at the register, and they're running a position, and they don't have the time to connect with customers. They don't have the time to pop out and sit down and talk to a community member that's come in and ordered from them, and not just get feedback, but just ask some questions. Connect with them on, find out where they work, and who else potentially maybe they'd want to bring to Salad House to spread the love. And so that's where we've seen some locations are sort of slow to grow, is when we have a franchisee who is stuck in the store and wants to do all of the things. They want to be the manager, they
True.
want to be the person at the POS at the register, they want to be the marketer, they want to do the financials too, and they try to do all of it. Um, and that's where we've seen, some
Yeah.
locations, take a little bit more time to take off, until they realize I can't do it all, because then I'm just going to be stuck, fulfilling a position of a 18, 20, 22 a dollar an hour person.
Yeah, and then the question is like, wait, why can't I just pay the $20? Like, I get learning it. That's so important to learn your own business so you know when employees are, BSing you or not. But after that, it's like, wait, if I can't value my time on the streets in the community at more than $22 an hour, then I don't have a good business. Like, go
Right.
find a different business. If you have to be the cash register because you can't make more money by hiring another cash register, you're probably not in a sustainable business. Go find another one, or maybe your different different thoughts need to
100%.
occur there.
And that's, it's not scientific, but it's one of the things that when we sit down and talk to people who are interested in purchasing a salad house, it's, can we envision this prospect, in their community, talking about salad house, talking about, not saying they have to be a dietitian or a nutritionist or anything like that, but could they, either themselves or an operating partner, or, another investor that they have, who's going to be the person to connect with the community in those early stages, get those connections rolling, leverage them, and then, turn those into, not only, repeatable sales, but potentially catering orders. And that's how business grows.
Okay, I love that. Last question for you: if you had to say Salad House is a franchise for people that meet this criteria and not for people that meet this criteria, what would you say?
Well, that's a great question. To sum it up, I really do think in the end, and I know it's something that potentially I've said too much to you today, but um, it's someone who is resilient. It's someone who is consistent. They don't get too high, they don't get too low. And again, that goes back to our most important core value of just keep chopping. And so a great salad house franchisee and a great entrepreneur is someone who is going to show up every single day, and I think lean into their strengths, address their weaknesses for sure. But again, someone who's resilient, someone who's consistent, and someone who's not afraid to raise their hand and ask a question again or ask for help.
So, who is Salad House not for?
Salad house is not for someone who is looking for a investment that they're not passionate about, you know? Um, if it's just looked at as a vehicle to make a couple of bucks, while you're sitting on your couch or at your other job, it potentially might not be for you, or it may not just be as fulfilling. If it is for you, you may potentially make a few dollars, but you may not get everything out of Salad House that Salad House has to offer. And so we want to make sure that we partner with people who get all of that experience out there, because there really is no other feeling than showing up, to to a little league game, or having a little league team come to you, or walking in and helping with a catering just to pitch in because you want to see everyone smile and get excited that, turn to, we got Salad House today, and we hear that so many times. We'd hate for you to miss out on that, on those experiences. So I would say that that's who it's not for, because then you won't get everything out of it.
Yeah. I mean, and restaurants are just hard work. If you're going to buy into a restaurant and expect to do 1.7 million while you're working a 9 to 5 and sitting here on your couch in the evening, it's not going to happen. But if you want to jump in it with passion, learn the business, create it, it's very scalable to go open
Right.
up 5 salad houses. And now you're doing $8 million, and making a great margin off of that. Definitely retirement money, if done correctly. So, Tim, thank you for sharing everything you've shared. Thank you for building what you've
You
built.
bet.
This is super exciting. I need to get out to New Jersey and try me a bowl of Salad House. Literally, I think I'm going to go next month because I'm like, I mean, not next month, next week. I'm flying to Mexico tomorrow, and on the way home, I'm like, I think I'm just going to go straight to you guys,
Oh,
hang out for a little bit, and then come home next week. So maybe
we're
next
gonna
week, and
get
I'm gonna be there with you.
we're gonna get you a picture with a chopper, and you're gonna
Yes.
be, chopping down on that romaine lettuce.
I love it. Tim, thank you so much for your time.
Amazing. Thank you, Bennett.